You're with Sean Plunket. Really interesting chat with David Farrer. And I mentioned there, kind of tongue-in-cheek, about the Atlas Network. And the Atlas Network really, and it's now a conspiracy theory for the left who lost the election, and for journalists, and for a lot of mainstream media journalists have bought into the fact that the Atlas Network, gosh, it spent $75,000 in the Pacific region, wasn't it, in the last year or something? Hugely influential, not. But most of this madness came from journalist Mihirangi, or better known as Joanne Forbes from Fielding. And Mihirangi made a documentary about this. You may have seen it. Gosh, I can't remember the name. I think it was basically all about how the voice vote got lost in Australia and how it was all evil right-wing conspiracy theorist people like Atlas. Well, we find out from David Farrer this morning that Joanne Forbes was dead wrong. And in fact, if anyone from Atlas was involved in doing anything, they were advocating for the other side, for the yes vote, not against it, not for no. And when we want to talk about money and influence, and Joanne Mihirangi Forbes is making a song and dance about that, I'd just like to let you know this. She seems to be able to work anywhere. She works for TV3. Her stuff appears on RNZ. I think it appears on TVNZ as well. So she's part of the select little group of journalists who all share each other's stuff, the spin-off, everything, and they all disappear up each other's foo-foo valves. But it's a good gig, you know. She and a woman called Annabelle Lee Mather, also styles herself as a journalist. They own a company called the AOA Media Collective. And though I haven't got how much money they're currently getting from you, the taxpayer, I can tell you that a couple of years back, 2022, they got a total of more than, they got $452,000 for one project and $187,000 for another project. So that's around $640,000. To Aotearoa Media Collective, owned by Mihirangi Forbes and Annabelle Lee Mather. And of course, Mihirangi Forbes isn't an impartial journalist. She's got very clear views on Te Tiriti. That's why she presumably prefers the name Mihirangi rather than Joanne, which is her birth name. And, geez, that buys a lot of influence. It certainly... by many factors, more than Atlas Network, if it's ever spent any money on issues in New Zealand, which I don't think it has. I don't think anyone can prove that. That's how money, influence and corruption works. You buy off the journalists with the Public Interest Journalism Fund. So it just seems a bit rich to me that someone like Mihi Forbes makes all sorts of accusations against David Seymour in a television interview about the Atlas Group. She doesn't have a skerrick of evidence. And if we want to look for undue influence and public money being corruptly diverted to create propaganda and political outcomes, all Joanne Mihirangi Forbes has to do is wake up every morning and look in the mirror. And bingo, there it is. There's what she's supposedly so worried about. I don't know if they're going to keep sucking on the public tit to promote their views of the treaty rather than impartially report what's going on. But I just want to say I find that a little bit rich. A little bit rich when you get more than... and one can presume there's a whole lot of other funding. I reckon it'll be upwards of $1 million to old Mihi, who's worried. Well, she can't even give us a figure for Atlas Network. She can't point us to any actual documentary evidence that Atlas Network had any influence in the Australian thing, apart from some of her radical separatist communist mates saying so, and her putting it on the telly and dressing up nice so that everyone believes what she says is the truth. So there we have it. And I'm going to keep, I think, just taking the mickey out of those who get all upset about the Atlas, whatever it is. It is vaguely ridiculous, and in fact it is gaslighting by a large proportion of our news media, and Joanne Forbes being preeminent above them. There, got that off my chest. It's all publicly available, by the way, all the information I just gave you. You can go and read the New Zealand On Air or the New Zealand reports on who they gave money out to at the behest of the Labor government. That's the way it works.